And I know he wasn't sure how he was going to feel about this series, where I was excited for it because I'm a huge Maggie fan. I've had a celebrity crush on Lauren Cohan since well before The Walking Dead. And I'm a huge fan of New York City. So to incorporate, Maggie and Negan into how they're going to manipulate New York City environment for a zombie apocalypse was very intriguing. And then the more I heard about it, about like the zip lines and people living above the streets, I was like, wow, like this is so intriguing to me.
Yes. Yeah.
That I was like, okay, I have to do it. I just to set people's minds at ease. Jason and I did have a conversation before I did this. He gave me permission to change things if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to stick to the regular format as you guys are used to, because that is why you guys listen. So I want to stick to that. So I'm not going to change anything. We're still going to have all the same formats.
But if we do have Jason tied up here, we could take the tape off of his mouth, ask him, and we get his permission. Yeah,
we can remove the gag. I mean, I think people have bought right now that he's away with his family long enough.
We did a really good job of like planting seeds on social media to make it look like he's in another country
paper trail,
now.
Covered our tracks. Yeah, we're all good. It's kind of like when Matt Damon took over Jimmy Kimmel's show, for anybody who remembers that. So hopefully by the end of these 6 episodes, you guys are still okay and you haven't gone anywhere and you continue listening on. But I promise you, Jason actually will be on one of the episodes as we go forward. Exciting. You're going to hear some familiar voices, and you're going to hear some new voices, because I'm bringing in some people who have never done any Walking Dead coverage for Podcastica. So yeah, that's that.
Huzzah. I'm excited to be here for the inaugural episode.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited to have you as well. Let's dive into the episode before we go into like the main points. Just overall in general, what were kind of your overall thoughts on the episode? How do you feel about how the season's going to be, just from what we got so far?
So I enjoyed it. I really did. I kind of feel like this is the dynamic that should have been happening with Negan and Maggie in like season 10. And I like the dark tone that New York and just the way that they're presenting this story is going currently. So I'm all on board for this series. It's awesome for me so far. How about you?
I'm right there with you. I was already excited. I had a couple of fears. I was very curious how people were going to feel, because I know people have not been happy with Fear the Walking Dead. And I know that might have turned some people away from Dead City. I also know when Fear the Walking Dead has been so low, if Dead City is even somewhat good, it's going to shine so much brighter than Fear. And that could be a false indication as to how good the show is.
Yep.
But as somebody like me who has not watched Fear for a number of seasons, like the day John Dory died, I was done with Fear. So I have not watched in a while.
Yep.
So I knew my liking Dead City was going to be a good indication, because I was not basing it off of my feelings of Fear the Walking Dead.
That's good to hear, because I did have the thought for a minute where I was like, all right, I've been watching a lot of Fear lately. Is this good in comparison, or is it good? But I think it was good.
Is this actually good, or is this just a little less bad? Like,
yep. I have some more to go into that with one of my points, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah, I did too. And I'll throw this out there too for anybody who doesn't know this about me. One of the other fears I had about this, and this could still come into play a little bit later, just because of this. This is not anything related to Walking Dead. I was actually a 9/11 first responder, so I have a lot of interesting insights to New York City, especially New York City in trauma, which is kind of what this is. So I went into this with a little trepidation that I didn't think of at the first time I got excited about this. But then as I started watching, especially that opening scene where you kind of see New York in disarray, I'm like, ooh, like, am I going to be able to handle this?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't been thinking of that. That there is a lot of trauma with New York and its devastation. So on top of the Negan issue.
So far I've been okay, but we've also just been introduced.
Yep.
To New York City.
Yeah.
In this environment. So we'll see how it plays out for me. But I think I'll be okay.
Well, we'll all be here and we'll help guide you through it a little bit. Hopefully.
Well, that's appreciative.
Yes.
Cool. So with that, let's get into some of our points for the episode, and I'll kick it off to you. What do you want to start with? What's one of your first points?
So I think the elephant in the room with this series is Negan and the way he is going to be or has been characterized. I think that has been one of the fears about this show, and also a fear of mine discussing it too, because Negan's a very polarizing character. So
indeed,
what I really appreciated about this, and is my number one point, is that Negan's past has not been forgotten or whitewashed in at least this episode so far. In the later seasons of The Walking Dead, they almost wanted to ignore his past and just say, like, no, he's a nice guy now. He's nice to kids. You can forgive him. He's completely redeemed. And I feel like a guy like him just doesn't fully change who he is. So I like that he's sort of back to where he was, but the show is also addressing his past very blatantly. So we see Maggie has a nightmare, and we are shown Glenn's death over and over and over again. They're not shying away from that. In the AMC special where Negan or Jeffrey Dean Morgan's talking about Negan's story, as they're going through that, and then he killed Abraham and Glenn, and in that they don't really show him killing Glenn, but I like that in this we're shown the gruesome part of it and how that's affecting Maggie, and they're not just ignoring this past. And Maggie reminds him that he burned down Hilltop. The marshals that are chasing him for his past crimes. They're very aware of his time as a savior. He explains it to the people at the motel, which is sort of like a refresher for anybody who has forgotten, which would be surprising. But if there are people watching this for the first time, you get a little bit of his backstory.
Well, I real quick, not to interrupt, but
no, go.
Are the marshals chasing him purely for his past crimes? Because
no,
I think there are new elements to it. Because at one point he does tell Maggie what they're chasing me for didn't happen the way they say it did.
Yeah, so they claim he killed a magistrate in cold blood, but then they also tell the story of how he lined up a group of people and killed one of the guys with a baseball bat in front of his pregnant wife, which I feel like was a little bit more for potential new audience members, which I'd be really interested to know if people are jumping in on this show and have not watched any other Walking Dead.
I'm sure there might be some people, but I don't know if there'll be a lot.
Yeah. And then the final point for not forgetting Negan's past is that the basically the new bad guy is a product of Negan's.
The Croat.
Yeah. Which I had to look up Croat. When they first said it, I thought they were saying like a cute word for like a female crow. I was like,
no, the Croatian.
The Croatian. Yes.
Yep.
But yeah, he was essentially created somewhat by going through Negan's savior training program, and he's mimicking some of Negan's practices, and that is what has pulled Maggie back into this. So it's not just a new adventure is upon them. It's something Negan's past created is still affecting them now.
Yeah, and it gave us a good background as to why exactly Maggie did need Negan for this. Like, because one of the questions coming up, as we were approaching this spinoff was, okay, what are the reasonings for Maggie and Negan to have paired up? These are two of the most furthest apart characters that why would you bring them together? I mean, as intriguing as it was that you're like, oh, there's a spinoff of Maggie and Negan. Like, how is that going to work? And then you introduce the Croat, and now you have that reason for the two of them to pair up. But it's also kind of interesting too, and I like how you mentioned, like, I kind of looked at it as in the sins of Negan's past have come back to haunt him.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned the Croat, which was part of his group before when he killed Glenn and he killed Abraham. But in addition to that too, he blows off very quickly answering the question as to what happened to Annie and his kid.
Correct. Yeah.
Which from what we've seen of Negan and Annie already, I highly doubt there would have had to have been a really good reason for him to separate himself from them.
Yep.
If something horrible didn't happen to them.
Right. Yeah. So it's possible that he slipped more into his old ways and that just didn't fly with Annie and he got the boot, or whatever happens that has the marshals coming after him might have been part of it as well. There's still some mystery there.
I mean, there could have been, you know, just throwing out a theory, this magistrate that he killed, if he in fact actually did kill him, could have been in a self-defense mechanism because this person harmed Annie and his child.
Yep.
You know, he in essence killed a bad guy who people didn't know was bad. So now he's being chased by, you know, the new Babylon marshals.
Yep.
So there's definitely more to Negan's backstory, or in between story rather.
Yeah, for sure.
That we need to get a grasp on to really, I think, make a judgment call fully as to whether or not we are finally behind Negan or Negan needs to be left behind.
I feel like they are within one episode, so it's hard to say, but I do feel like they're leaning into him being a little bit more like the old Negan, he's an asshole. Like, he thinks of himself first. Yeah.
I kind of see it the other way.
Okay. Yeah.
I kind of see, and this is great that we have this kind of different perspective, because I kind of see it as in they're leaning more towards the Negan who has been redeemed. And again, I feel maybe that's a lot of the brilliance on the writers in that they're leading us down both of those paths. It's just a matter of perspective.
Right. Yeah. So in my mind, I imagine in the time that we haven't seen him, he's kind of lapsed. I feel like a guy who ends up running the type of organization that he ran, and he's very much like a narcissist. He almost can't help himself, where like eventually he just starts thinking of himself first and just doing shitty things and not really realizing or understanding that they are shitty things, or really taking or having empathy for other people, I think is part of it. So in my mind canon, the past years or whatever, he's just screwed it up with Annie and his kid, and he's been getting into, legal trouble, post-apocalyptic legal trouble, and now he's run into Maggie, and it's kind of like an additional, like, I don't know, like a kick to him a little bit. But
I also don't see the old Negan taking a mute child under his wing and under protection.
Yep.
Not only that, but I mean, we have seen, this marshal that they kind of kidnap. These are some of my notes, so these aren't main points, so I can throw them into this conversation. But just kind of to back my side of it and my perspective of it, we see, we have the conversation where he's in the back of the truck and he tells Maggie, look, you're protecting her. I have everything I need. I can kill you right now. We see later on that the junior marshal that they kidnapped and took into New York, Negan saved him twice when he could have been left to die. And Maggie at the same time as well, he sidestepped her away from stepping into that trap, which was an easy opportunity for him to get away.
Right. And
get the hell out of that city and head back.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've seen these, not to mention, as I said, Ginny, the child that he's taken under his protection, I think these are all indications, at least in my perspective, that we are seeing a Negan who either feels redeemed or is still trying to redeem himself.
Yeah, or at least at the very least believes he's redeemed, even if that doesn't translate with all of the characters around him.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that I guess I'm trying to also like make his character work throughout all of The Walking Dead, and I feel like he to a degree does stuff that benefits him, but it can look like he's doing something good for other people as well. I do think he has soft spots for like kids and probably Maggie at this point, because she's one of the few people who's actually had like a person-to-person connection with him with the conversations they had towards the end of the main show. But I could also see him never going back to get Ginny again. He kind of states something about that. And I think I'm curious if he has some history with the Croat that he also wants to resolve. So having Maggie help him get there might be a selfish reason. Granted, these are all me.
Yeah, because again, like from my perspective on just those things that you mentioned, you know, I see it as in, you're right. He tells Maggie, like, promise me you'll take care of her, you know, and he doesn't say if something happens to me, will you take care of her? He just says, promise me you'll take care of her. And she flat out says, because you don't plan on going back. Like she's accusing him of already being ready to walk away from this situation. Whereas I kind of see that as in like, he knows exactly how psychopathic this Croat is. So he's assuming that he might not be coming back from this.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of this for this series, it's going to be time will tell which way he ends up spinning. But I do really like that we do have
these different perspectives.
Yeah, we watch the same thing and we have different perspectives on it, which is, I feel like, a sign of a good show.
And the only thing that makes me nervous now is all the listeners who might be siding with you, who'll be like, oh, I'm not listening to this anymore. He's siding with Negan. I'm not about this.
You didn't say that you wanted to like have a sleepover with Negan. You just you're accepting that
I didn't say I sided with Negan. I'm just saying I can kind of see the redemption arc that they might be going for. With Negan. But, you know, since we're already talking about this topic and how polarizing this can be, you know, that'll kind of, I was going to make this a further point, but we might as well just jump into it now. And I want to start my point. We talked about this. Jason doesn't ordinarily do this, but I'm going to do it. This is the only change I'm making to the format, I promise. Is I want to play a clip, because this is a line from the episode that I feel like was probably the most polarizing moment from the episode. And then we'll kind of discuss it after I play. But this is the clip.
You know, you have been sticking it to me in infinite little ways since the second we hooked up. Don't think I haven't noticed. And I get how having Herschel taken has you spinning out, stirring up emotions, memories, all sorts of shit. But vengeful thoughts that I thought you had put to bed, clearly you have woken the hell up. But what I don't get is after all these years, you still think I'm the bad guy. I'm not. No one is. Well, you know what, Maggie? Maybe everyone is. Ask yourself one question. How many husbands and fathers have you killed?
What you did. You don't ever put something like that to bed.
So, if you've ever seen the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle live action movies from the 90s. In the second one, where one of them makes a point, and Michelangelo's like, he's right. And then another one makes another point. Oh, he's right. They're both right. That is exactly what kind of came up in my mind when listening to this, because you get that, like, you know, Negan saying, like, you know, you still think I'm the bad guy. Nobody's the bad guy. And then he lands that line of how many husbands and fathers have you killed? And I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
Like, he's got a point, because that whole gang have killed a number of people without considering who they are, who their families are, who they're leaving at home. Like, they're just as okay. I don't want to say just as.
Yep.
They are guilty as well. Maggie is definitely guilty as well. But then she returns the line, like, what you did, you can't come back from. And then you think about the degree of it. Like, yes, they've killed protecting their cities, but Negan killed because it was fun.
Yeah, he really relished it, which I think is the difference. But I will say, when it comes to the writing and the storytelling, I think a person like Negan wouldn't see a difference. I think he believes that statement he's saying. And that's kind of why one of the things that also lends into my believing that, like, he might not have the mental capacity to fully be redeemed, because I don't know if he can fully understand those differences. He can say it, but I don't know if he actually gets it. But yeah, I agree with you with that, where I also was like, yeah, both sides there are definitely right, because Maggie has, especially towards the end of The Walking Dead, she was starting to become fairly ruthless, and she was hanging people and shooting people left and right, and so
yeah. And it kind of comes around a little bit later too, because in that moment when Negan says that to her, like, how many husbands and sons have you killed? There is a moment later on in the episode where you can see that hits her. Because she has the marshal down on the ground and she is ready to come down for that killing blow. And she stops, because what happened before is he was talking to her and saying, I'm a father. I have a wife at home. I have kids at home. They are my world. Like, she heard that, and that sunk in right before she came down. Because had she not heard that, he'd be done. He'd be done.
Yep. Agreed.
So Negan's words, they sunk in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Which I thought was excellent.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and because I feel like part of my whole backing the possibility of Negan being on a redemption arc and such too, and seeing that side of the character, there are moments where I think Maggie is so dead set on believing that Negan is who he is. He can never come back from that. There's that moment in the truck too, where Negan and Ginny are in the back and they're having kind of like that heartfelt conversation, and she overhears it. She closes the window.
Yep.
Maggie doesn't want to hear it.
No, not at all.
She doesn't want anything to kind of crack that image of Negan being as evil as he is.
And just the conversation that he's having there must also make her think of the fact that Glenn's not having the chance to have those types of conversations with his son. So it's, double-edged for sure, where she doesn't want to see him as anything but that, fairly, and it reminds her of things that she's missing out on at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. There's two sides to it, both good and bad. And like you said, she doesn't want to be reminded that Herschel will never have the conversation with Herschel. But at the same time, she's afraid of getting any kind of inclination that Negan might be a better person now.
Yep. Which I want. The story he tells, I'm kind of wondering if that is supposed to be a part of this, when he talks about the Statue of Liberty.
I think that's going to come around.
Yeah. And I was wondering, because he says, his dad brought him back a statue, and he couldn't imagine how something so small could also be so big. And I wasn't sure if that was him talking about himself or the way that she sees him, because she sees him as this giant, monstrous event that happened in her life. But when she looks in the back of the truck, it's just kind of a beaten up older guy who's just sitting there. So I wasn't sure if he was trying to also get her there with that little bit of a story. I did kind of want her to just shut the window slowly as he's like still telling the story. It's just like, hey, shut up. Like,
That did made me think a little bit too, though, in that story of, that you mentioned about the story with him and his father, how his father brought him back the statue. And he said, how could something so little feel so big?
Mm-hmm.
It does kind of, and maybe this is me overanalyzing it a little bit, but this could also be maybe why Negan became who he became, is that he was just a small person in the world who had to make himself feel and look bigger than he actually was. Hence the Negan that we were first introduced to in that episode where Glenn and Abraham are killed.
Yep.
He has a big-ish personality, but that he did that on himself.
And I could also see that having been egged on a little bit by being surrounded by a whole lot of these people who see him as a bigger than life character. So I could see him playing that up even more just to keep the rest of the group somewhat under his control. And it's kind of like, I don't know, like the way a bully acts in school, where like they might overdo something because they want everybody to be just as afraid. So yeah, I think that might bleed into that a little bit.
And it could be very interesting story-wise too, if I'm sure at some point he's going to see the Statue of Liberty in these 6 episodes. It would be an interesting point if character-wise, when he finally does see the Statue of Liberty, it makes him realize how small in this world he actually is.
Yeah.
And it does the opposite to maybe complete that arc.
Yep.
That redemption arc that some people see his character might be going towards.
I was also wondering if that story was just the base of it was just to humanize him a little bit.
That could be that too, and we're just totally overanalyzing.
Everything else felt like pretty well planned out, so I feel like that's something, and we just maybe don't have a full picture yet. But
we still got 5 more episodes to go, so we shall see. But what's one of your what's another point?
All right, so my next one is, who is New Babylon? It appears to be the new big group that we know very little about, but they seem very established and like they control this region.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because it's one of my notes, not one of my points, but I have, we see that moment where Maggie pulls up, like she's just casually driving around in this truck. She pulls up to a bar that's not protected at all. Like you can just walk in like this was a bar from before. This world that she's in, or at least this portion of it, feels very much well lived in.
Yeah. Yep.
It feels very safe.
Yeah. And it seems like that is the low end too of whatever other society is going on, because this place clearly has alcohol, drugs, gambling, and it seemed like sex workers out front as well too.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's probably what they were.
Yep. And I think one of the marshals says, I think he refers to it as whoredom as he's dealing with the owner of the place. But it seems like this is a place where the people in New Babylon go to get their vices. So
actually, I think on the IMDb page, there are characters listed as prostitutes.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah.
Yep. I think it makes sense that they're prostitutes.
Yeah, but it does make me wonder if there's a group this big, are they bumping into the CRM at all? Like, it feels like a large established group. Although Pearlie, the lead marshal, says he's from New Babylon, the capital city, which he says is more like a town with like tree-lined streets, but it implies there are multiple towns, and he's clearly well beyond that border doing his marshal work. So it seems like a big place that I kind of want to know more about.
It seems like a very, very large area that we have only kind of just gotten a small portion of with this bar, because it did make me question a lot of things, because we do find out that Maggie is actually not at Hilltop anymore. She's at a new location, same kind of setup as Hilltop, but with new people. They are somewhere outside of New York, which does make a little bit more sense because of the fact that they're outside of, between Manhattan and not at Hilltop, because Hilltop, I believe, was Virginia.
Yes, yeah, that was near Alexandria.
Yeah, so I mean that's a long drive for for that kind of area. So something tells me New Babylon is most likely New Jersey.
Oh, yep.
Which would make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. When Maggie takes Negan and Ginny to where they're meeting the person who's going to take Ginny to Hilltop, they pass a sign that says "Welcome to New Babylon," and then they stop within there. So I was wondering if Hilltop was a part of New Babylon or just happens to be really close to it. There's
Hilltop or the new Hilltop.
Yeah, New Hilltop.
Yeah, New Hilltop. Yeah. I mean, because that was the only thing that I kind of questioned was the geography of everything that was happening.
Yeah, for sure. Because the fact that it's a new Hilltop helps, because we have no idea where they would have set up.
Exactly.
But it does feel a little weird to have gone from Virginia and somehow ended up in New Jersey, New York area. But they might be. Who knows?
Well, but it also, you bring up the point too of them driving past the New Babylon sign as they're turning in. That I guess that means that bar they were at is not a part of New Babylon.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it seems like it's outside of it and maybe like one of its territories or in its jurisdiction, but not.
I was going to say, because then is that within the marshal's jurisdiction? Because he's still taking up his actions in Manhattan.
Yep, that's true. Yeah.
Manhattan, I'm pretty sure, is not part of New Babylon.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like anybody's been traveling there.
No.
And the leader, Pearlie, has a note that says, I think it's Joel Armstrong, and it has a New York address, which implies I think his name's Pearlie Armstrong, so I think this is a relative, who is somewhere in New York. And it kind of implies he hasn't been in there either, I think. And this is his first reason to go in there. And maybe his secondary plan is to locate this family member as well. So, yeah, I would assume New York is not in their normal jurisdiction.
Probably not. I would probably assume not. I'm very interested in the character of Pearlie. Because he seems like somebody who could go either way. Like he very clearly is after Negan, and he's willing to go through anybody to get to Negan, including Maggie, including some of his own marshals, apparently.
Right. Yeah. He go ahead. Accidentally shot Hano or intentionally did. It was not super clear.
Yeah, I don't know, because either maybe he's just got stormtrooper aim and missed. Like, I don't know.
I tried watching it slowly, and it kind of looks like when he fires the gun, Negan's where Hano is, and then Negan kind of steps to the side and pulls him with him. So I think I lean more that it was an accident, but he does seem like he's ruthless.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he's willing to go through anybody to get to Negan if that's what it takes. But at the same time, I feel like we don't know enough about him to maybe feel he could fall on their side and assist them, especially if maybe his own life becomes at risk.
Yeah, agreed.
So I don't know. Like, I feel like if it was him and Negan, it'd be one or the other.
Yeah.
But Maggie pulls an interesting dynamic with that character, because these are two characters that are against each other. They're two magnets that draw towards each other, but she's the polarizing part in the middle,
right,
that kind of pushes them aside. So I'm very curious as to where he's going to fall by the end of this.
And Maggie shared with him her story, saying that she needs help as well. And then at the end, after he's knocked out and she and Negan leave, she tosses his gun back in, which the first time I was unsure of why she would do that, but I think it's so that he could continue to survive. She knew he wasn't dead. He was just knocked out. So I think that little bit of help might also be a bridge for the two of them later on as well.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that you're right. She does toss the gun back towards him.
Yeah, which is, it's just strange in the zombie apocalypse to put a gun down. So there has to have been a reason she did that.
Yeah, just so he has defense.
Yeah, Yep.
and he can get out of there.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have him in my notes as I have Marshall Pearlie Armstrong, good or bad.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know.
Jury's still out.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you have for a point?
So we covered the clip. For my point, I want to go back to the beginning, and I want to jump to the opening of this episode with Maggie sitting on the beach outside of New York City, and it kind of leads further on in that this episode right from the start, the series right from the start, feels so much more cinematic.
Yes.
Than anything we have gotten from The Walking Dead so far.
I think we're on a combined one here, because one of my points is this felt like a movie. Or feels and looks like a movie.
It feels like AMC put in money.
Yes.
For this. And I'm totally okay with it. And one of the things that I love that the writers and producers have done with this episode is that there is a very stark contrast to the world outside of Manhattan to inside of Manhattan. Inside of Manhattan is very dark. It's a lot of dark blues. It's a lot of grays. It's a lot of blacks in the color scheme. But in the outside of it, we have so much more brightness and vibrance in the outside world. The trees are so flush and green. Even the truck that she's driving is a light baby blue.
Right, yeah.
And
it's not our typical brown palette that The Walking Dead usually would stick to.
Exactly. It's like white and baby blue. Like the clouds are white, the sky is blue. It is such a stark contrast between New Babylon and Manhattan. That's
it's beautiful.
and it's done intentionally.
Oh yes, yeah.
Because they just want to show you how much more dangerous Manhattan is once they're in there. And one of my favorite things that any series or movie ever does, and I love that we've kind of already gotten the distinction about it in this episode, is whenever they make a location a character.
Yes. Yep. I agree.
I'm so on board with that, especially New York City. Because there's so much they can work with.
Yep. And it's so different than what we've seen previously. And there's a couple of shots where they pan up and you really feel like the buildings are huge. I feel like in normal, like if they were in Atlanta or other cities, the buildings still feel lowish. I don't know how to quite describe it. It feels like it could be just a big town, whereas this really feels like a city that is huge and just overwhelming in its presence, and just it's so good.
I mean, and New York City is like that in itself. It's huge, and huge and overwhelming are two great words you can use to do that, because that's how the city can be when it's bustling.
Yeah.
So I like to be in this environment where it's dark and there's nothing happening. I can only imagine it. I went to Manhattan to see a performance at Rockefeller Center at Christmas, and I stayed over with Jill, who's another one of our fellow Zedheads, and we woke up at like 4 a.m. to walk to Rockefeller Center and walked into Times Square. It's completely lit up as normal, but there is nobody.
Oh, creepy
on the street. It is incredibly eerie.
Yep.
So now take that and turn off all the lights.
Right. Yeah.
And you've got what these characters are going through.
It's so good. Yeah. Well, I'll piggyback on that because one of my points is also just the look and the kind of the storytelling that they're doing with this. That especially that opening scene that you talked about with Maggie. This is where I was saying I'm not sure if coming off of fear for so long was making me not have a good critical mind, but I think it is good. But you see Maggie on the edge there looking out and searching, and then she's attacked, and just from that you can tell, all right, she has been working at this for a while. She clearly needs help. And then in the next scene, she's going to find help. There wasn't a drawn out thing of her sitting somewhere quietly and like writing in a journal, like, I need to find my son. I'm going to need help to do this. It's like, nope, you just showed us, you used the video format to tell your story, and we got it. And I feel like they continued that throughout this entire episode. Like, a lot happened in this small thing that we got introduced to the characters, got introduced to some new characters. They all met together. They traveled to at least 2 different locations, and we met a new bad guy all within one episode. There's like, when Negan is talking to Maggie about her potential plan, he says to her, does Hilltop have kids, schools? And that's just about all of the conversation that they have, making a deal between each other. And it's like, as soon as he said, do they have schools and kids, we understand he's willing to help her in trade. She has to help Ginny. And she also knows that. It wasn't like this whole long conversation explaining it. And I was just, again, I don't know if it's just because I've been watching Fear, but I was just loving the slim use of language and just getting, we know what these things mean. They don't have to be explained the way I just over-explained all of that.
No, but I totally get where you're coming from with that too, because you're right. There's not a lot of detailed or overly detailed exposition of the story. We don't need, 15 minutes of setup, behind everything. Because that was something that kind of took me by surprise too, as I was watching, is the fact that Walker kind of did come up on Maggie. And it took me for a second. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, Maggie's better than that. Like, she would never let that happen. Yeah. And then as you progress further, and you're right, and she's finding Negan, and she's coming to Negan for help, the last person you'd ever assume she would come to help for, until she realizes who it is that I see in that moment, I kind of feel like she was already on the path to find Negan.
Yeah, possibly.
Because she already knew the Croat. Like, she already knew who the Croat was. Yep.
And she said she camped out there for 3 days, watching the smoke in the morning and in the evening. And yeah, she probably at some point was just like, all right, I know where he is. I now need to go find where Negan is to
I don't think she wanted to approach Negan without already having a plan.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, that caught me off guard, how she was caught off guard. And then as we progressed further, I was like, okay, now it makes a little more sense. She's not in the best headspace. She knows she's not going to be able to accomplish this alone. She's not thinking properly. She's not thinking straight. She needs help. So now she's going for help. Yep. So and, I saw that too.
And the fact that we saw New York within the first couple minutes, I was fully ready for that New York to not show up until like the last 5 minutes of the episode. But it's like, nope, there it is. It's right there, and we are going to go there.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're headed there very, very soon. One of the cool things I did see about that scene too, and I'm wondering if this is something that's going to be explained, or we're going to find out more about this, is when she is looking across the river through the binoculars and she sees just a horde of zombies, of walkers, along the shoreline. I got very curious about that. Yeah. Because I was like, is this a natural thing, or are people on the island maybe doing this intentionally, kind of like a security border?
Right. Yeah. Because she does look at a strip early on, right on the edge of the water, and there's nobody there. And then she looks a little further down, and you do have this whole parade of zombies coming along. So it seems like there you've got, like almost like a runway that they're like doing a circle around. But
yeah, like this is security for the city. Yeah. Like, they're intentionally making this horde go in this direction so that people will not come into the city.
And then later on, we see that there's possibly a truck leading them as well. Yeah. So they may be using the walkers for all sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you have a city that large, that is millions of people who are potentially millions of walkers. Yeah. something they've never dealt with before. Like I could see like this is just a constant running truck. That it's like a game of Snake on an old cell phone.
Right, yeah.
Where you keep capturing the pellet and it gets longer and longer.
Yep.
And that's literally what this is. It's a game of Snake throughout the city, gathering all these zombies, one, to clear the streets so that you could start using them, and two, as a security measure.
And it possibly works as the tide as well. You know, once that horde of zombies has gone, you've got like 12 hours to go out onto the street and do stuff before that comes back around or something like that.
But at the same time, too, once they're in the city and we get those moments where they start making noise and then all of the zombies start falling literally out of windows because they're hearing the noise on the streets. One of the things I did notice upon second watch is that there were not already a lot of bodies on the street.
No. There was
which means,
maybe one on a car.
Yeah, which means that people very rarely are down on street level.
Yep, that's good. Yeah. All right.
That's a good indication that these guys are living above and have been for a while.
Yes.
And it is rare to hit the street.
Oh, yeah. Did you happen to catch the woman at the top of the buildings when it was raining? Okay. The first time I wasn't sure if that was a walker slowly making their way over the edge, but then they crawl back slightly. And I'm assuming that's the woman who blows out the match at the end as well. I
think so.
Yeah.
At least that's the assumption that I was making as well. So, yeah, I'm very curious to see who she is.
Yes. Do you think they were being like the falling, was it orchestrated by somebody, or do you think it was just the noise drawing them out of the buildings from high up?
I think it was just the noise. That's my impression of it. I could be totally wrong. And it's I mean, it could be a little bit of both. It could be that this noise is what caused them, but to fall out of the windows. But it could also be that they were set up for that to happen.
Right. Yeah. That could have been the trap that they set. Yeah. Because they
could have been led to these floors for them to fall.
Yeah. Because it seemed like once they got under the scaffolding, it kind of petered out. But granted, the noise also petered out. So there might have been no reason, but I'm just noting that in my mind. I'm curious.
I would be one to wonder too that if you lived in the city and you knew that happened and these walkers fell out of windows and fell to their deaths, why would you not intentionally cause that?
That's part of it. Is like, why would there still be walkers in the building? Yeah, with open windows. So that was
drive down the street, blaring music, and let these buildings empty out.
It's raining zombies. Let's go.
Just let these guys fall to their deaths and empty these buildings out, and you don't have to kill them because they're killing themselves.
Yeah, that's the mysterious part. But I guess these could be buildings that nobody's occupying as well. There's a lot of space in Manhattan if there's not that many of you left.
Well, and not only that, but it is a huge city.
Yeah.
So as you said, if there's not that many of you left, why would you take the risk of doing that?
Yeah, right. If you've got a secure place.
Yeah, just secure your little area of the city and you're good. Yep. Because we do get the indication there are other survivors in the city outside of the Croat and his people.
Yeah, for sure.
The ending of the episode kind of gives us that indication.
Yeah, he's asking him to just tell him about his group, the Escaping Man, which is exciting. I feel like there's so many ways other groups could go within the city. Like, it feels so different. It's not just we found a space and we set up a fence around it. Like, every one of these buildings could have little pocket spaces in them, and it's exciting. I'm excited to see what they do with the city and the survivors.
Yeah, and you have to imagine too that some of them have probably been there since the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And others were crazy enough to go in afterwards, like the Croat.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
This guy's psychotic enough that he went into New York to claim to the city years after this whole outbreak happened.
Yeah. And he was also aware of places of like Alexandria and the Kingdom, I assume, if he was in that time frame hanging out with Negan. So he was like, yeah, I'm going to New York City. He's like, all right, buddy.
Exactly. Not Atlanta, not DC. You're going to Manhattan.
Yeah, I've never been to the M&M store. I've got to get there.
I have. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. No, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore. Whose turn is it? I
piggybacked on your last one, so it could be either of us. We could go either way.
Well, I'll tell you right now. I just have all of my main points we've kind of covered.
Okay.
I just have a bunch of little notes here and there. So if you have any other main points, please.
Yeah. So my next one is the new bad guys. So we have the Croat, who appears to be a break off from Negan's group and seems to be doing similar things where he's finding groups, making them get down on their knees the way Negan did. And instead of killing somebody, it seems like they take somebody and then they demand stuff from them and they return every month to get more based off of the story that Maggie told Negan, which is interesting that it seemed like he's less violent in front of the people, but it does seem to be there's an indication that he's taking these people and then torturing them based off of the one guy who is escaping them towards the end, who's covered in wounds and seems desperate to get away.
Well, I feel like there's a little bit of a difference in that too, because he has that guy for information.
Yeah.
That guy was being interrogated because he wanted to know where his people were at, most likely so that he could exploit them the same way he was exploiting Maggie and her people.
Right.
Herschel, on the other hand, is somebody who was taken there as collateral, I guess, because in the conversation he has with Herschel, he tells him, I think you're going to like it here.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Meaning, I think he's almost ready to indoctrinate Herschel as part of his group.
Yeah, I could see that. And at the very least, he